Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new edition of the Daily Debate. In tonight's show, we're going to be talking about the petroleum and energy sector here in Egypt in light of President Sisi receiving an invitation from the President of Equatorial Guinea to attend the fifth summit, the fifth gas exporting countries forum that will be taking place from the 26th to the 29th of November. And joining us here in the studio to shed more light on this file is Dr. Salah Hafez, the former chairman of the Environmental Agency. Dr. Hafez, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start our discussion, checking out some of the main stories making the news today. The President received the visiting French Foreign Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian in Cairo on Tuesday, and the presidential spokesman Bassam Radi said the meeting tackled a number of regional issues of mutual concern, including the situation in Saudi Arabia, Syria, Libya and Sudan, along with means of fostering bilateral ties and enhancing the partnership on the economic, trade, investment and developmental levels. Also, Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry held talks with his French counterpart Jean-Yves Le Drian and covered bilateral relations and a number of regional issues. And now, before we start talking about the petroleum and energy file here in Egypt, let's check out this report regarding President Sisi receiving the official invitation from the President of Equatorial Guinea to attend the fifth forum of the gas exporting countries, and we'll be right back.
On the sidelines of his participation in the World Energy Conference in Abu Dhabi, Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources Tariq El-Mulla met with Gabriel Obiang Lima, Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources, Energy and Industry of Equatorial Guinea, who handed him an official invitation from the President of Equatorial Guinea to the President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi to attend the fifth Gas Exporting Countries Forum Summit of Heads of State and Government, seminar which will be hosted by Equatorial Guinea from the 26th till the 29th of November. The minister, during the meeting, pointed out that Egypt has succeeded in strengthening its position in the natural gas market in an unprecedented way and would continue its role in the further development of the coming period, stressing his country's desire to strengthen and support cooperation with Egypt in the areas of energy, oil and gas through the use of expertise, appreciating Egypt's pivotal role in the African continent and its efforts to achieve integration among countries of the continent under its chairmanship of the African Union. Egypt welcomed to support petroleum cooperation with Equatorial Guinea in light of the strong relations between the two countries, as it attaches priority to African countries to cooperate and transfer the necessary expertise in the petroleum industry. Meanwhile, Al-Mullah also met with Hala Zawati, Minister of Energy and Mineral Resources of Jordan, where they discussed aspects of bilateral cooperation in the field of natural gas, which has witnessed great development during the last 2 years, and reviewed the situation of activities and projects carried out by joint natural gas companies between the two countries within the framework of the Kingdom of Jordan's ongoing efforts to contribute to the development of infrastructure for the natural gas industry. Also, the minister met with a delegation from Mubadala UAE company headed by Mr. Musabah Al-Kaabi, president of the company, where they discussed opportunities to strengthen cooperation between the two sides in light of the interest of the UAE to put more investments in Egyptian oil and gas sectors. The president of the UAE company hailed Egypt as an attractive country for investments in the oil and gas sector. It was agreed during the meeting to start studying the work in the field of transport and distribution of petroleum products within the framework of the company's desire to diversify its investments in Egypt. The minister also held a meeting with the CEO of the Italian company which offers advanced solutions and technologies in the gas industry, They discussed opportunities for cooperation between the two sides in the context of Egypt's outstanding results on this industry and to achieve self-sufficiency and return to export and possess potential, that there are promising opportunities to attract more investments in the coming period.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Starting off our discussion right away. Dr. Hafez, now President Sisi received this invitation from the President of Equatorial Guinea to attend the Gas Exporting Countries Forum taking place in November 26th to the 29th. Now, how important and how significant is it for Egypt to be attending this forum? Is it important because of Egypt as an individual player within the African continent and its obviously geographical location and all the developments that took place in the energy sector? Or is it mainly because of Egypt presiding over the African Union this year?
Well, both actually. Well, Egypt is becoming now a key player in the gas markets in this part of the world, mainly Europe. Europe is the largest gas market in the world, let alone, of course, the States is a separate entity altogether, not connected to the international gas market by any means. So for this reason, and also will be competing with West Africa for the same market in Europe. Europe is the center of attraction for all producers of gas, and they get their gas from Russia, from Norway, the North Sea, Algeria, and used to get gas from Egypt, and then we slowed down in the production. Now we're coming back again after the large discovery of Zohr. And of course they were getting also from Qatar and Iran through liquefied gas, West Africa, where Equatorial Guinea is, and Venezuela, to my surprise. Also they sent gas all the way to Europe, because there was a share that was not covered by the nearby hubs or countries. So, and we are presiding on the African Union now, so we have certain status that need to be incorporated in the system of the gas in West Europe.
Yes. Well, Dr. Hafez, what do you think would be mainly discussed during such a summit? Would it be about who's going to export to where? Is it going to be, are we going to be talking about how are we going to maybe import gas, liquefying it, processing it, and then exporting it again? Are we trying to draw a new gas exploration and exportation map within the African continent in relation to Europe and the West as well?
At this stage, it will be a courtesy invitation, as you said, because of the status of Egypt residing on the African Union. But definitely they will look into some cooperation and transparency, because the name of the game in gas is the transparency of prices. There is no market like in oil, the liquid fuel at large. They have inherent transparency, because stock market like the Brent, the West Texas Intermediate, the Arabian Light, so they have to declare the price and then buy in advance, whereas gas is not like that. So there is, that's why you find vast differences in the gas price between, for instance, the United Americas, Canada and the United States, and in Europe. It varies whether you're transporting the gas by pipeline or liquefied. Liquefied takes about 10% of the amount of gas as energy to liquefy it and reduce the volume to 1/60th of the volume to be able to put it in vessels and transport it. So this costs, it's energy intensive process and costs more money. So the differences in prices, the hub that we're putting together in Egypt here, and we're advocating, you know, all our countries in the area to join us, will have to be transparent, and prices have to be put forward for the market. So they are probably probing the situation of the East Mediterranean and Egypt in particular, to see whether they can find ways of cooperating, because we're aiming at the same markets.
Yes. Well, Egypt has already been, since the discovery of the gas field, now Egypt has been going on individually with its own efforts to establish trade relations in the gas field with different countries. And now it's going to this forum. Which makes more sense business-wise, to make the deals individually, Egypt on its own, going to different countries and making and cutting the deals, or during such a forum, cutting deals and making deals under the umbrella of such a forum? Does it make a difference business-wise?
It usually does, but in this particular case, we're not ready to export. We're importing and re-exporting with preset agreements. But as a hub is not like as individual, like the multilateral and the unilateral relations in politics. So now we're dealing with, we have our own group, the stakeholders, the people, the countries that would like to either import or export gas through our hub. And then the market is also diversified. So it cannot, they cannot make bilateral agreements at this point of time.
Well, Egypt has already started its own agreements with countries such as Russia, Greece and Cyprus, for instance. And as you've mentioned before, Europe is a main market for gas exportation. Now, do you see relations developing more between Egypt and Equatorial Guinea in this file, and maybe as well taking it further to the rest of the African continent, looking at it as another market that needs to be re-established relations there?
Definitely it will be partly so, because Egypt, for this geographic location, is the gateway to Africa. And the Silk Road, which is coming from the east, will go through the Suez Canal area, and then again it will be a gateway to Africa from the north. So it is very important to find out, to connect all infrastructure in the continent, like railway roads, the pipelines, because many other countries, they don't have gas. So they're exporting gas either from West Europe, which is rich in gas, or will be from our hub in the north. So cooperation will have to be introduced in the energy in particular. And this is why we call it energy hub rather than gas hub. Energy hub will have our refineries, the fuel, the gasoline and the rest of it. Electricity is also part of it. So we're connecting lines, you know, to transport electricity to Africa. Africa is a virgin market, and Egypt will always be a gateway, and we're working more and more to be so.
Yes. Well, Equatorial Guinea, talking about an energy hub, Equatorial Guinea has taken great strides in becoming a regional hub with advancements in launching 2019 oil, gas and mining licensing round, offering 24 offshore and 2 onshore blocks. Now, does that sound like Egypt now needs to make serious cooperation with Equatorial Guinea, taking care of the west of Africa and, as you've mentioned, the Americas as well? Do you feel that maybe we can cooperate more to work on the infrastructure of turning our country into a real energy hub?
Well, as energy hub, we are working on it diligently, and we will do it depending on the dynamics of the market. I mean, you cannot plan to make a hub in the fullness of time. Say after 3 years, I'll have Egypt as hub. You know, because there are other dynamics in the system that will have to be conducive to making this hub works. That's why you find in London and Rotterdam, it's virtual hub. They have data about all shipments of gas in the area, all the liquefaction plants and the capacity in it, and the countries that need the gas and the pipeline. So they just work it on the computer and make deals without having their own infrastructure. In Egypt, you know, because we started at an advanced level, because we've been active in the gas since the 60s, and we connected all the gas, the associated gas from the Gulf of Suez, which was the main production of oil, into we made LPG plants and pipelines, and so the grid was designed and started long before many other countries in Africa and the Middle East, actually before all of them. So we ended up having a reasonable setup to consider it as a nucleus for a physical hub, as opposed to a virtual hub. So it worked to our, and then we found gas discoveries. And after we introduced, I was involved in the introduction of the gas clause when I was vice chairman of EGPC for exploration and petroleum agreements. So in '88, we signed the first gas clause based on production sharing agreement in the world. And this was in '88, and from then on, the gas-prone areas were very attractive for many large companies, because they have to be big, especially in the deep waters, because of the cost and the technology needed to operate in such environment. So Egypt is ahead of all the countries in the area, and after the discovery of Zohr, and after developing our infrastructure, all other countries, they came. That's why we import from Israel. When we were exporting to them, now we're importing to liquefy and sell, not for our own use. So we take right of way and take money for the liquefaction, and then the liquefaction plants were not operating, and they require a lot of energy to mothball it and not to make it active. So it helped the deals that we've made recently helped our system to be much more efficient and cost effective.
Yes.
So Egypt is located, the location and the infrastructure is going to help with the dynamics of the market around us, and the transparency will make Egypt very, very important hub in this part of the world.
Yes. Well, Dr. Hafez, you've mentioned that we already are ahead in having a proper grid, a complex network, and we have the proper infrastructure for many years, for decades even so. But you've also mentioned that to turn it into a real competitive physical hub, a lot of factors come into to the equation. What sort of factors that can actually help turn this potentially great energy hub into a physical reality, active and operating around the world?
The price. The price is because Europe gets their gas from Russia, for instance. The northern parts, the pipelines that are located in the north, in Siberia, and it's very costly to operate because they need certain material because of the variation in temperature and the very, very low temperature. So it's difficult weather conditions that will make cost of transportation high. The North Sea is also Norway. The North Sea, they supply also with a competitive price. The price has to be competitive. In Egypt here, and also the size of discoveries, the depth of water, the infrastructure, because the infrastructure is available. So we have to be transparent with the price, and it will be less than the price Europe get from Qatar or Iran because of the distance of transportation. And West Africa is another competition. Venezuela, they even get some gas from Venezuela, despite the far distance between. So it will be a war of price, not a war of price, but the main competition will be for the price. And that's why turning it into physical hub, then the price will be disclosed and put like a stock market, like Henry Hub. Henry Hub, they declare the price of gas daily, on daily basis, like the Brent oil, like other stock markets. So this will put us, I believe, of course, depending on how much will we import the gas from the East Mediterranean for, and there are many factors, but if we succeed in controlling the price and the distance, either by liquefaction or even pipeline, we can do it through land line, because the marine line is very costly to build. So there are many factors that now the ministry is working very professionally to identify all the factors that will make us competitive, and they're doing, to my mind, a great job.
Yes. Well, if it's all about really the pricing of it, now how can Egypt be influential in setting the price? Is it being the exploration of gas and being the first hand of it and then exporting it, or trying to be the middle man in between the source, then liquefying it and then exporting it? How can we be more influential in setting the gas price?
It needs a lot of data, because we don't know the agreements that are made with Qatar, for instance. We don't know the agreements which are made with, so they change the prices. They have their own constraints, different from the constraints that we have. So they try to accommodate, and maybe they just go with the price lower than even the cost if they want to get a share. It's a share of the market. Well, the gas market in Europe increases by 5%, and it's huge. 5% is, you need few like Zohr fields to cover it.
Yes.
So we're talking about 5% of huge market. So Russia is the main supplier of the market, so they don't want to lose the share. And there are fields that are aging and they start being depleted. So they go down. So they have to find another discovery to complement, to keep the share. So the shares are set, and some shares are very costly to get, like if the distance is far. So we're located, we should be able to control the dynamics because of our location and the volume of gas that we have in this part of the world and the existing infrastructure.
Well, can't we get this data from our friends around the world, from the virtual hubs that work on collecting these data, this data and all of these statistics related to it? Can't we have some sort of sharing of the information?
No, this is it's public. The virtual hubs, as long as it's a hub, it's public. Individuals, you don't know. Like nobody knows the exact production of oil in the world. You know, they're all speculating. And even the reserves that countries have, they cheat for political reasons. So I know, and the discoveries, but the discovery as it is discovered, then usually because of they're registered in public in the stock market, they have to be transparent, and otherwise there will be inside deals occurring, you know. So the reserves, when it is first discovered, it is announced accurately, and they have to revise the data very closely. But with time, the dynamics, you know, depletion, change of reservoir, then they start playing some games.
Yes. And do you feel that apart from just the exploration and the exploitation and the importation and the liquefaction of all of these resources, now do you feel that trying to get proper investments here in Egypt, we need more businesses, maybe need more companies that work on processing these gas findings, more companies and investments working on liquefying more, making it faster, making it safer, whatever the standards that are set for this gas file. Do you think that Egypt needs to work more on finding these investments of these companies here in this field?
Yeah, you have to have very high quality infrastructure because any interruption is very costly. Like what's happening in Saudi Arabia now is changing the whole world upside down. So you have to guarantee quality of the gas with certain specifications, quality of liquefaction, quality of the time, management of time. So it has to be a specialized company to handle this, a private company. The governments cannot do it because they're never transparent enough for this purpose. So if we conceive it properly and work on it to introduce and to attract companies to manage such a hub, we are in business. Otherwise, we're doomed. We cannot play games, you know, as a hub, transparent with prices, the import prices and the export prices, and the systems, the maintenance of the system to make the price lucrative for all stakeholders.
Yes, definitely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, also Egypt is working on strengthening its ties within this energy file with the US. The Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources and also the Minister of Electricity met with the American Deputy Secretary of Energy. Let's check out this report and we'll be right back.
The Minister of Petroleum and Mineral Resources, Tariq Al-Mullah, and the Minister of Electricity and Energy, Mohammed Shaker, launched with U.S. Deputy Secretary of Energy, Dan Brouillette, launched in Cairo the strategic Egyptian-American energy dialogue that aims at enhancing energy cooperation between the two countries. The two sides reviewed means of boosting bilateral ties in the oil field and discussed current preparations to hold the East Mediterranean Gas Forum, the EMGF, and its key role in strengthening cooperation amongst Eastern Mediterranean companies. They also reviewed the activities of American oil companies working in Egypt and their role in increasing Egypt's crude oil and natural gas production rates. The two sides tackled available opportunities to U.S. companies to inject further investments in the oil sector, especially with regards to research and exploration activities. Speaking to reporters, Brulette said that Egyptian-American dialogue focuses on the development of oil and natural gas sectors, in addition to fostering cooperation with regards to electricity technologies. He added that the two countries would seek through this dialogue to strengthen cooperation in a number of areas of common concern, including enhancing energy trade and promoting the use of clean coal technology and carbon as well as bioeconomics. He noted the launching of the dialogue affirms the U.S. support for the East Mediterranean Gas Forum, as well as Egypt's role as a regional gas and electricity hub. The U.S. official was on a three-day visit to Egypt after participating at the 24th World Energy Congress in Abu Dhabi. On the sidelines of the Egypt 2019 Egypt Petroleum Show, Ministry of Petroleum and Mineral Resources signed a memorandum of understanding last February with the American Chamber of Commerce in Egypt, whereby the latter, through its Career Development Center, will implement a specially designed change management program aimed at developing the capacities of managers and executives. One of the main pillars of the modernization program is the development of human capacity and equipping leaders and executives with necessary skills to lead the efforts of the ministry in accordance to its vision. American Chamber of Commerce, through its Career Development Center, actively contributes to the capacity building of professionals seeking to enhance business-related competencies and skills.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Dr. Hafez, you have decades worth of experience in this field. Now, can you quickly, before we start talking about this meeting, can you quickly describe the history and the nature of the relationship between Egypt and the US in the oil and natural gas sector?
Well, many companies, the majors like ExxonMobil and Amoco and Mobil Oil, they started very early in the game. They were the Seven Sisters, and two of them are European, Shell and BP, and the rest are Americans. So they were involved in the Middle East wholeheartedly, and they were active. Shell was the main player. But anyway, it progressed, and relations became stronger and stronger and reached a peak in the 80s. Then they, for a reason or another, they slowed down a little bit because politics, energy, when you talk about oil and gas and energy at large, it's very political. Now gas and oil is the main issue in the whole world. Energy. Yes. Energy is the work done to move things. It's by definition, it's very important parameter. So the Americans were on and off active in Egypt. Now they're mainly active in the offshore areas as operators and as sleeping partners with large operators. But they're not as active as they used to be, and many other, because in general when you start a virgin area, you look for large and difficult areas because you don't have enough data. And as you accumulate data and gain experience in an area, then smaller, the independents we call them. The independents is a company working in exploration production only. Not like Mobil Oil, they have refineries, they have all kind of the whole system from the upstream all the way to the downstream. So independence, they go outside the United States and start getting like the prey. You find the cats, they take the prey, then the other smaller until the vultures and other creatures. So now we are in Egypt, in the Western Desert. You find Russian companies, small Egyptian companies that come and get easy oil, and they have to be very cost effective in order to make it lucrative, worthwhile. The large companies, you know, they find it very small for them. So now we are, the most important part is the offshore Mediterranean. Mediterranean is very deep water. Not very deep water. The deepest part of the Mediterranean is located in Egypt, here in the northwest part of Egypt, the Mediterranean. And you need technology. Parts are not off-the-counter items. You have to make designs because things change from one field to the other. So you need a certain size of companies, and of course Americans are the main player in this. Now the Europeans like Eni and Total and some of the large public companies in Brazil, and they became also players in the difficult, costly operations of the deep water.
So do you think that now such a meeting is maybe an attempt by the US to try and not just be a sleeping partner, but also to try and replace the independence within the Egyptian market, as we're talking about Egypt trying to become an active physical hub now? So is it now time for the US? Are they trying to come and have a little piece of the action?
I'm sure they are. They are working hard now, because the hub will make them control the markets. And because there are so many deals occur from the purchase of gas, the liquefaction, the selling of gas, and all these transactions. They need to be there for them to control this part.
Dr. Hafez, do you think that they would have come anyway, the US, at a certain period in time, in this present time? Or do you think that maybe what's happening in Saudi Arabia is playing a part in, as a catalyst in speeding up this process? Or maybe the sanctions on Iran? Do you feel that these are two factors that are playing a part in the pace of this process, or do you think that they were going to come anyway?
They have to come in any case, but more so now, especially what's happening in the Middle East. Because the United States, they are the largest consumers and producers of the hydrocarbon in the world. With the shale oil, now they reached something like 15 million barrels oil per day, and their consumption is 20. So still they import about 5 million barrels oil per day. The production of Saudi Arabia is 11. Russia is about 11, but their consumption is much higher than Saudi Arabia, so they export less. China now, the consumption is high, also their production is on the rise. So, but America, they import oil, and so they need to control the market. About 50% of the world production is for exports, which is around 40 million barrels oil per day. And the total production is between 80 and 90 million barrels oil per day. So of that, 5 million goes to America, which is more than 10%, which is a huge amount, bigger than any other country. They have to control, and also they keep strategic reserves. People believe, you know, I'm always asked about the strategic reserves. They understand the strategic reserves, that the reserves, the natural reserves they find when they explore for hydrocarbons, they keep it in the ground until they finish the oil from other countries and then use it. No, it's not. It's they use because it's they have mineral rights. People have mineral rights, so they produce and all the discoveries they make. But the federal governments, they buy oil when it is inexpensive, then they put it in artificial storages. Now they say, and this is the paradox what's happening now. Now the market, there is a share of 5 million barrels disappeared from the market, from Saudi Arabia. So all other countries, the exporting countries, would like to take this share. Because once they take a share, they will never, especially the non-OPEC countries. OPEC, you know, they have some obligations. So America, they volunteered, and Trump announced that they will use the strategic reserves, which is huge, to account for the missing part of the pot, international export pot, for Saudi Arabia to develop. If they do so, now they're imposing sanctions on Iran. So Iran will have to cut down the production. So if this means that they will use more of their strategic reserves to complement the missing part. So all the wars and the problems in that creates shortage in the market, now they have to either forget about the sanctions or use their strategic, which is very costly, actually.
Yes, definitely. Well, Dr. Hafez, because we're running out of time, so in less than 30 seconds, it might be a big question, but we keep talking about gas and oil findings and importation and exportation and all that. And in their meeting with the U.S. Deputy of Secretary of Energy, now they also talked about clean technology and carbon and also bioeconomics. Now, talking about all of these things, are we still heading the same way for going green and being environmentally friendly with all of these resources? They're
still going. Now the pace is going very, very fast towards being green, much more than I expected. But still there is a room to use the hydrocarbons, and they change the technology of burning to reduce the greenhouse gases from using the hydrocarbon.
Yes.
Now the technology is developing very rapidly.
Yes. Well, ladies and gentlemen, definitely this sector is becoming quite integral for Egypt and the Egyptian economy, and we are moving ahead with all the steps needed to be taken to establish Egypt as a main player in this field. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this edition of the Daily Debate. But before we go, I'd like to thank our very distinguished guest, Dr. Salah Hafez, the former chairman of the Environmental Agency. Dr. Hafez, thank you very much for joining us this evening.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for more coming up on Nile International. I'm Hani Saif. Thank you for joining us.